Okay, today is Thursday, September 18th, and we're talking about the exercise for type effects, and we are talking about making a clipping mask in Illustrator. Sorry guys, I have to backtrack to make sure this makes sense for everybody who sees it. So I've created a text box with 72-point type and block letters using the type tool, and I filled it in with blue, right? I've pulled an image from the internet. It's an image of a dolphin, and I've placed it in my document by going to File, Place, selecting the image, and then placing it in my document. I then sent the image to the back by clicking on the image and making the bounding box come up, right-clicking, Arrange, Send to Back. So now I have my type name and this image stacked on one another on one layer. So to create a clipping mask, and this is the last part of, or it's number, let's see, number 7 in masked type in the type effects exercise. I'm going to marquee around both objects and select them. I'm going to right click, make clipping mask. Ta-da! That's it. That's all you have to do. So what it's doing is the type now is becoming like a mask that is, I like to think of it as a window. It's allowing the image to show through this window. And you have the ability to move the object in the background around. Let's see if I can do it here. Well, you used to. Let's see. Oh, whoa. New things in Illustrator. So you technically have the ability to move the image and the type and reposition things by selecting and moving. I'm using the arrows right here so I can get more or less dolphin. It doesn't cut the image. It's just a window. So however big your image is, that's how much wiggle room you have to play. If I go too far to one side, see how my J is getting cut off? Because I've run out of image to show through, and it's just showing, you know, window on white background, which is nothing. So those are your options for playing around with your name. So for the rest of these type effects, you just go through like we did with that, and you follow each step-by-step instructions. And then at the very end, you create either a little composition or you do the numbered type. And you save it as an Illustrator file with your name and everything on it. And then you also save it as a PDF, and then you upload the PDF to the exercises. Do you guys have questions about that? Okay. So I'm not going to go through each one with you because I want you guys to struggle with it a little bit. It makes it so you become much more used to the tools and kind of moving around the interface. And we haven't done very much in Illustrator, and I want you guys to be comfortable for using it for both the digital painting assignment, which is due next week, and then the real to abstract one, which is due in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm gonna pause. Okay, so digital painting is due next week. This was what I assigned to you last week. So how many of you guys have sketches that you've developed? One.
I did, but I'm gonna change it.
You're gonna change your idea? Okay, that's fine. Do you guys have a subject in mind for what you want to do? Okay, so tonight is the night where I want you guys to really fine-tune a subject and start sketching. You have to really play around with this in sketching, but because most of you guys are so new to Illustrator, that it's going to take a long time to create the final piece to your liking. It's going to take much more time than I think you guys are aware of. So again, we talked about a little bit about format earlier, right? Which is the shape of the piece. So I want you guys to think about your format for this when you're sketching as well. Sketch your subject, get an idea of like the variations of how to portray the subject within the format, which we talked about, you know, playing with scale and proportion and things like that last week when I was drawing on the board. So I also want you to play around with the format itself. How do you want to break up these 3 paintings? You don't have to do each one perfectly symmetrical, like same size on both sides. You can do something here or you have a combination of two, and the center is a larger panel than the outside edges. Or in this case, they did a vertical piece where things are stacked. But the idea again is to have two monochromatic paintings, digital paintings, and one which is a combination of the two color palettes. So it's a duotone. So there's some really cool, I don't think this one opens, this one. Here's a quick example. Did I show you guys this one last week? So this particular student said, I want to do a potato bug. Have you guys ever seen potato bugs before? It's like these,
On the other day.
yeah. I don't think they have them in Sweden. They are like these weird burrowing bugs. They're totally, it's like almost like a giant ant. They're very strange, and they come out at night. So this student knew they wanted to do the Art Nouveau kind of style, and they also wanted to focus on a potato bug, right? So in order to get like these ideas going, they pulled images from the web and they threw them into their project. Started brainstorming. Sketchbook, you have a picture here where it says, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Where they've cut it out, and then they have the pictures of the flowers, and then they start playing around with the thumbnails and like how you can use the format to kind of bring the subject to life. Sketching, sketching, sketching. Very loose, right? In this panel, you can see very loose sketches about of the potato bug. Then they start fine-tuning a little bit. Obviously, this particular student has a very nice drawing skills. Okay, you don't have to be super confident in your drawing abilities to be a successful designer, but sketching and learning how to like use your hand to get a message across is also important. Okay, so then they start with it. This is like their final kind of look of their potato bug. Then they look at all these different flowers, still pulling in ideas, right? A lot of references here. And then the sketching happens. So here, they're playing with the format and more sketches. The triangle one's kind of interesting. That's something that you guys can borrow the idea from if you're interested. Don't ever steal someone else's work. Don't ever take a full concept and mark it as your own. But we're all inspired by each other, and we're inspired by the world around us. And I always encourage you guys to take something that you find of interest and manipulate it in a way that makes it your own. Okay? So in this case, the potato bug in two different panels with the flowers in the center. But ultimately, they settle on this final composition. These are very intricate sketches where they've put a lot of work into them, right? I think maybe what also has happened is like they've scanned the flowers and they've scanned the potato bugs, and now they're placing them in the frames as like duplicates, and so they're not being freehand sketched each time. They're playing with the composition at this point. Here, like pumping up the lines, probably took it into Illustrator, or maybe even took it into Photoshop and thickened those up. And then this is actual pencil coloring in. Probably printed this out and started coloring it in, kind of like a coloring book, to get these really interesting textural shading from the pencil. And then from there, focusing on color and playing around with how to create that kind of Art Nouveau color palette, really retro. And in the end, they chose these two different shades of green, and the combination is a merge of both of them. So this student most likely did this in Photoshop. So is anybody here interested in pursuing this project in Photoshop? Or are most of you going to be focusing on Adobe Illustrator for the digital painting? Yeah, okay. Totally up to you. So then if you guys want to stick with Illustrator, then that will be our focus. Okay, so you guys should be working on that tonight. We have an hour until our guest lecturer comes, so I would appreciate if you guys can take this opportunity to start working on things bust out your sketchbooks. If you want to go use the restroom, you can definitely do that. If you want to go try to grab a magazine for your reel to abstract, but I'd like your focus to really be on the type effects in Illustrator today and also this digital painting assignment. Okay.